Hey, it's Ari Faye, here with Resto Druid tips, tricks, and kicks for the Ara-Kara City of Echoes dungeon in Season 3 of The War Within. If you can believe it, this dungeon was the easiest of Season 1 for this expansion. Now I would say it's about middle of the pack. Jumping into the first poll here, I'm going to suggest some healing strategy first and then review the mobs. Try your best not to heal the tank as you run down the stairs, or you will get some healer aggro here. You may also get healer aggro by healing the DPS, so just be very careful. You are going to want to stack basically right on top of the tank, maybe trail like just a tiny bit behind. Otherwise, mobs might jump out at you. It might be a good idea to have Shadow Meld ready, or you can also use the new Shadow Meld pots that are called Umbra Essentia. It does take the place of a combat pot, so be aware of that. My strategy for this run is to follow the tank very closely, dismount close to or on the bridge, dismount by applying your 2 life blooms, and then dash or stampeding roar to get to the base of the first mini as soon as possible. If people are taking immediate damage while you are still getting there, you can convoke, but again, be aware of that healer aggro and have Shadow Meld ready. You can also use Lumuthar's Living Silk Trinket, and that could give you some time to apply hots to people without pulling too much healer aggro. You can rejuve and germ people up if you are using an abundance-based build, or if you're using a Cenarian-based build like I am, or if you want to try the style of rotation that I have, which is just to apply regrowths on everybody, and then use Cenarian Ward on whoever is taking a significant amount of damage. Once you get to the base of the mini, go ahead and throw Vortex down. This pull is really tough because the tank is going to body pull a lot of adds. First he pulls Ravenous Crawlers, which jump out at a random target that is more than 8 yards away. That's part of what makes this run kind of dangerous. The Engorged Crawlers and Jabbing Flyers are also pulled. The Crawlers use a Venomous Spit, which applies a poison dot that needs to be dispelled on cooldown. And the Jabbing Flyers apply a Bleeding Jab to cause a bleed that can stack. You can go ahead and apply Cenarian Ward on whoever has the bleed, and you can use Barkskin on yourself if you feel like you're in danger. There's also the resource of Ironbark, which you could throw on somebody if you're worried about them dying to the bleed. Priority interrupts include Ixen, the mini-boss, who casts Horrifying Shrill, which fears all players. There's also the Trilling Attendant, who casts Resonant Barrage, which deals heavy AoE damage, and this is going to wipe your party if it goes off, but if you have some cooldowns, there's a chance you can save it with Tranquility or Convoke on a lower key. You're going to watch for Ixen's Web Spray Frontal, which you can bait to the sides to help keep the center area clear. And there will also be mobs casting Web Bolt, which can be interrupted, but it's not priority. Though getting double targeted from a Web Bolt will kill you. It is a good idea to less this pull since it is pretty dangerous. On the way to the next mini, you'll have Engorged Flyers and Crawlers. You are going to want big healing here since everyone is going to be continuously taking the Poison Dot. So keep your Life Bloom up and your Efflorescence down. Your Life Bloom maintenance will ensure you are getting those clear casted regrowths to help you apply Symbiotic Blooms on people. If you're doing an Abundance build, maintain those rejuves and possibly some germs. And if you're doing the Life Bloom regrowth build that I'm playing, you'll want to maintain regrowths on everyone here. You can drop Ironbark on somebody who has a double stack of the poison, or Ironbark yourself if that happens to be you and your Dispel is not up. You can heal Convoke here if you feel the poison dot is getting a bit messy, but if you feel like you're handling the damage okay, then this is a good place to send a DPS Convoke here. For the next mini, we have Nact, who will also do a Web Spray Frontal, so make sure to bait those out to the sides. They also cast Call of the Brood, which is a huge AoE, so make sure to have those hots up as the AoE is going out, or use a cooldown like Convoke or Tranquility or Lumuthar's Living Silk as that's happening. If you don't have anything up, you can just make sure that you have all your hots up and cast Wild Growth and spot heal with regrowth after. Call of the Brood also summons a bunch of Ravenous Crawlers, which kind of seems like it's being spit out at you. You can put your Vortex down under the midi to help pull them towards the tank. You can also use a well-angled Typhoon to help push them back towards the tank if you're worried about aggro. On the way to the last mini, you will encounter a Trilling Attendant. Try to get that first interrupt in on him with a Skull Bash, so he will join the tank in the pull into the last mini, Atik. The mini will spawn a Poison Puddle that can one-shot you under a random player. They also do a Web Spray Frontal, so again, try to bait those to the sides. Atik also casts Poison Bolt at the tank, basically on repeat, but it's really not necessary to interrupt. Dispel poisons as needed, and you could probably do a little DPS Convoke on this pack pretty safely. After all those minis are eliminated, the boss will spawn. as well as some eggs. The tank is going to pull the boss close to the ads, and an alerting shrill, which is like a big AoE, is going to happen. I would recommend having life blooms out, regrowths out, and then try to find a good time to wild growth in there. You could also use tranquility for this, since you don't have to be moving during the shrill. Position yourself between the boss and the ads, or behind the ads to bait them away from the boss. You could put your vortex down to pull the ads further away from the boss, or you can blow the ads away from the boss with Typhoon, or entangle them if you feel like they are getting too close. If the boss gets any ads on a higher key, even if you survive the AoE, the tank will likely not survive the Voracious Bite, Tank Buster. You do have a bit of time to DPS the ads here, but be careful about timing because you are going to have to start applying HOTS. You can use Convoke for every other Gossamer Onslaught, which is the huge AoE that happens, and puddles spawn under you repeatedly. Maximize space and puddle placement by always stacking on the tank and moving with him. And when Convoke isn't up, try to ensure all your HOTS are out there, all those regrowths. Try to send out a nicely timed wild growth, and then you can stutter step and cast regrowth in between if you need to. Or you can use Nature Swiftness into a regrowth to try and top off a player who looks low. Once that boss is complete, you'll head towards some new mobs, scariest of all, the Bloodguard. Here they have an AoE called Locust Storm and a Frontal. And also while it lives, it grants all allies a 50% damage reduction, and it should be a prio target for DPS. For this pull, if you have it up, use Barkskin on yourself and focus on healing the incoming AoE by applying HOTS to everyone. For an abundance-based build, get your rejuves and germs out there, and for a Cenarian ward-based build, get your regrowths on everyone. Ensure your FLO is down as the AoE is happening, and as the AoE is happening, you can Convoke it. Or you can cast Wild Growth and add some regrowths on the tail end. There's also a Web Mage in this pack whose Revolting Volley must be interrupted, and it also casts Web Bolts, which can be interrupted if you have something up like Incaparour or Vortex into Typhoon. You'll also run into Bloodworkers and Bloodstained Assistants, which are essentially fodder. You can Vortex the Bloodworkers since they target a random player and charge towards them, but you can also just stand close to melee here. The Stag Shells you want to keep a good eye on. If Alarm Shrill is completed, it will aggro mobs within 50 yards and spawn an additional Bloodguard. Be sure to prevent the cast from going off with Incaparour or Vortex into Typhoon. Second boss, Anub Zect, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but Anub, does a frontal first towards the tank. Then it will randomly target players with the debuff and dot infestation. And if you get infestation, you may want to use Barkskin for your own dot. Maintain Life Bloom on others who may get the dot. When the dot expires, players will drop a Ceaseless Swarm, which you want to drop on the edges of the arena away from other players. The boss will also target a random player with a Burrow charge. Avoid aiming this at other players if you can, and stay close to the boss during the charge. I know that sounds kind of weird. Bear form, and then cat form to run out of the frontal. The boss will force everyone to center, casting Eye of the Swarm, and random players will get the infestation on them in the little circle. If you can drop it at the back of the circle, that is best, so it doesn't hit a tank or other melee players. This is also a good time to DPS Convoke in between healing the dot. After Anub Zect is dead, you have a Blood Overseer. Ensure that each cast of Venom Volley is interrupted with Skull Bash. Circles will spawn under your feet, so move accordingly, and dispel the tank as soon as the circles go out, but do not dispel on cooldown. If you dispel too early, the debuff will be reapplied before the circles go out, and the tank will not be able to get out of the web circles. You might have to do some focus healing on the tank here until you can dispel. If the tank pulls winged carriers in, put your vortex down to prevent them from jumping out at people. You'll also run into drones that create black blood puddles beneath them, and you can avoid being rooted by using a CC or an rooting effect, such as changing into a cat or Incaparour or something like that. Kai Katal, the harvest will prevail, is a boss encounter that has bloodworkers running through the arena. Use Moonfire to cause them to drop a puddle that you will be able to root yourself into. I like to cast a few extra Moonfires on the Bloodworkers to create puddles for DPS and tanks who might need it. A lot of times people are just tunneling the boss and they don't think about where they need to go, what they need to survive the Cosmic Singularity when the boss reaches 100 energy. The Cosmic Singularity will pull players in, and you can use those puddles to root yourself, but as a druid, be careful because you may pop yourself out of cat form by healing people if you are in cat form while rooted. And once the singularity has completed, that is when you should change forms to free yourself. Otherwise, if you do it too early, you might die. You can dispel the poison dot on people if it looks like they are clear of hitting other people with their poison waves. So just don't just like dispel on cooldown. Watch where people are, look at the arena, notice who is clear of others, if you are clear of others, and position yourself in such a way that when the poison is cleared, your waves will not hit other players. Keep hots on people before the poison dots go out, and this should be an easy fight to heal. Just a little mechanically troublesome. I hope you learned something about how you can use your toolkit to time this dungeon. Like and subscribe for more tips, tricks, and kicks on other dungeons.